Do not go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. That is a quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Welcome to Trina Talk. Trina Talk is a weekly podcast that will inspire and empower women of all ages to strive for the impossible. Your host, Trina L. Martin from TrinaMartin.com, is a motivational speaker, leader, and cyber tech expert. Every week, Trina will share wisdom gained from her life experiences and lessons learned while pursuing her goals to inspire you to achieve the next level in your life. Now, your host, Trina L. Martin.
Hello, welcome to Trina Talk. I am your host, Trina L. Martin, and this is episode 37. The topic this week is Say Yes Boldly. And my guest this week is G. Brian Benson. Brian's mission is to wake up the world with conscious, thought-provoking media that inspires. In 2008, Brian followed a hunch and left his family business, stepping into the unknown. Ever since, inspiration has followed. Letting intuition be his guide, he began to step out of his comfort zone, and unexpected paths and talents started to emerge, such as writing, acting, and crafting stories. Tapping into this emerging creativity, Brian began his own hero's journey of self-realization and growth, which continues to influence his empowering and inspiring books, films, and presentations. Brian is an award-winning and #1 best-selling author, radio host, actor, filmmaker, and TEDx speaker. Hi, Brian. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Trina. Hello. Good to be here.
I am so glad you're here. You are like my twinsy, I guess I can say that. Just looking at your bio, you're an author, an inspirational speaker, filmmaker, you're in media, you're a radio personality. You are doing a lot of stuff and things that correlate with what I'm doing. So I was very excited to, talk to you about what you do. But before we get into all those particulars, I see that you were part of your family's business and you stepped out of that to pursue your passion and your intuition. Tell me about that.
Sure. So 10 years ago, I had been running my family business, which was a golf center up in Salem, Oregon. It was a driving range, a retail store, and a 9-hole par 3 course. And I just, and I also kind of grew up working there as well. And I just started kind of feeling like I wasn't growing there anymore and that I was supposed to kind of maybe do something else with my life, although I had no idea at the time what it was. And I just, I kind of felt like I had a gift inside of me that wanted to come out, and I didn't know how to release it, but I knew I needed to try. So I had a chat with my dad, and he was understanding, and that was the kind of the beginning of this journey I've been on the last 10 years. I honestly didn't know that I would be doing any of what I'm doing now. The thing that kind of got the ball rolling was when, after we had that chat, we decided to sell the business. And so instead of being able to kind of leave on a little sooner track that I wanted to do, I ended up having to stay an extra year. And because we decided, to list it and go through that whole process. And so for me, it was a blessing in disguise, because there was a point about halfway through that last year where I was just raring to go. And I just thought, maybe why don't you just sit down and try to write down 5 things that, that can maybe help you find some balance during this period. And so that's what I did. I just wrote down 5 little things. And whenever I started to feel kind of out of whack, I would make sure that I was doing them. And it helped me so much so that my intuition was screaming, expand the list and write a book. And I had never written anything really ever before, but I just kind of honored it, and it poured through me. And I wrote it in about a month and a half. And I self-published it. And right at the end of leaving the business, the book came out, and it ended up winning a couple of awards, which really shocked me. Number one, I didn't sell a whole lot of copies initially because I didn't know how to market a book 10 years ago. And I was also really terrified to speak in front of people. But that book was kind of the thing that got the ball rolling in the direction that I've headed.
Wow. So tell me more about your journey. But before you go into that, so you said you and your father sat down and had a talk when you said, okay, I want to leave the family business.
Yeah.
And then you guys decided to sell it. Was that something that was going to be on the table anyway? But why did you sell the business?
No, it's just he was in it. He was in insurance. He was in the insurance business, and so the golf center was kind of a side thing for him, and I ran it. And so we made decisions together. And he loves golf. He grew up. It was just really something that was in his heart, and so he kind of enjoyed kind of being able to do that from the side a little bit. But once he knew that I was going to leave, it was a lot of work. I mean, we had, a lot of grounds to have to, be taken care of. And I mean, we obviously had some people to help us do what we were doing, but it was just a lot. And he just decided that, since I was going to be leaving, that it might just be easier for him to move it. And so, that's what we did. So it was not on the table prior.
Okay. Gotcha. That's understandable.
Yeah.
So tell me about this journey of yours, because you said in the process of basically reflecting on what you wanted to do with your life, you decided to write a book. And tell me about that and just your whole journey from then to now.
Sure. So when the book came out, it's called Brian's List, 26 and a half easy to use ideas on how to live a fun, balanced, healthy life. And when it came out, I wanted to obviously share its message, but I was terrified to speak in front of people. And so after I had won those awards, I just kind of, I just intuitively felt like if I'm going to get this out there, I'm going to have to overcome that fear. And so right after the book came out and right after I left the business, I moved to Reno, Nevada, from Salem. My son lived about 30 miles away in Northern California, and he was just entering high school. And so I wanted to be near him during that period. And I also just started to kind of reinvent myself down there. But to overcome my fear of speaking, I just dove into it. It was not easy, but I dove into a couple of community college speech classes. I did Toastmasters for about a year. I hired someone to co-host an internet radio show with me that had been doing it for a while. I created an interactive workshop based on my book, figuring I was being kind of clever by making it interactive, figuring I wouldn't have to talk the whole time, but it actually worked out better that way, that it was interactive. And then I also started taking an acting class. Just all these intuitive hunches started popping into my head on different ways to maybe just confront being in front of folks. And as I started doing all these things, other opportunities and synchronistic events started happening. And I just, to take a half a step back, when I was 3 years old, I told my mom I was put here to inspire people. And so she reminded me after the book came out, and I'm going, whoa, and so I just kind of started assuming that I was going to head in the direction of maybe writing more books and hopefully, starting to become a little bit of an inspirational speaker or what have you. And so that also kind of fueled my drive as I was stepping out of my comfort zone, dealing with some of my fears. And, just one thing led to another. As far as the acting goes, I had never planned on acting either. And after taking the class, I didn't really think much more of it. But a few weeks after that, I had a dream that popped into my head about a little story about a street guitarist. And when I woke up, I felt really powerful, so much so that I felt like I better write this down. And so I did. And a little bit after that, I met a young filmmaker in Reno, kind of happen chance, but and I said, hey, I've never acted before. I've never made a short film, but I think I have a pretty good idea. You want to do this with me? And he said, yes. And so I found myself very shortly thereafter filming this little short film that's about 8.5 minutes long called Guitar Man that I wrote and acted in with the help of Michael Sweeney, the young filmmaker. And it just really made me feel alive. And I really felt empowered. I'd never played guitar in front of anybody before. Prior to that, I was a closet guitarist. And here I was doing it on film, and I was able to put a lot of really, a lot of positive messages into this little short film. And when it came out, it just woke me up in a whole different way. I think initially, after I wrote my first book, I kind of felt like I would kind of head down that direction. But after I did the film, I realized that there's a lot of different ways to put out positive, inspirational, and thought-provoking media. And so, somebody else saw that and gave me the lead in their short film, which was a really great message. And the lead actress in that is 83 now, and she's been an actress her whole life and lived in LA, and we just kept in touch. And, 6 years ago, I felt like I was supposed to move here. And I ended up renting a studio apartment attached to her house for the first 2.5 years. So it's just interesting looking back at all the, how everything's connected. And just by following my intuition and trusting that one thing led to another, led to another, led to another. As I continue to step out of my comfort zone and trust those hits.
I really love that you said that, because oftentimes if we just do step out of that comfort zone, we'll see how doors just start to open. And it's up to us to decide to walk through that door if we're going to either be afraid or what. And it's funny because you said you were, terrified to speak in front of people, but it led you to so many things down the road. I mean, what were you thinking when you were going through this process? Because you said you took, college courses and you work with Toastmaster, things like that to help you get over your fear, but it led to such an amazing and bigger path than probably what you were thinking. Tell me about that.
Yeah. Well, I honestly didn't really know. I mean, I know it probably looked odd and a bit just odd to the typical outsider as far as like the route that I was taking, and what was I doing? What are you doing for money, et cetera, et cetera. I just knew that I was supposed to do these things, even though they didn't necessarily make sense. And in hindsight, looking at everything, all these different things that I did, they got me to where I'm at now. And they also helped me solidify my foundation. They helped me gain confidence. They helped me learn how to, love and accept myself on a deeper level. They taught me, a variety of little mini educations, whether it was, in the studying of the classes here in LA, the acting classes, it, taught me how to just be able to open up and feel more. It taught me how to be in front of a camera. All these different things just have been preparing me to do what I'm doing on a bigger scale. And I guess internally, I probably subconsciously knew that, and that was what was driving me. But intellectually, it wasn't quite there. It was just I was just trusting my gut and just going with the flow. And I was having fun and feeling alive because I was doing all these things that were brand new to me. And I never really tapped into my creative abilities before. I didn't really even know I had the ones that I've been able to share recently. And so everything was new. It was exciting. I was just seeing the world with new eyes. And so I just kept heading in that direction.
Okay, so let's talk deeper about that, about intuition, because I'm big on intuition. Have you always been the person who said, you know what, this is what my gut is telling me, so this is the way I'm going to go? Or how did you get to that point? Because sometimes it takes us a minute to get to that point.
Of course. I think a little bit yes and no. I mean, I think, there's some times looking back where I definitely trusted my intuition. Well, I hurt my knee while I was in college playing mud football with a bunch of friends, pretty bad. And I, wasn't sure what it was going to be like after I got out of, the rehab and all that kind of stuff. And I've been very active in high school, played a lot of sports. And, being active was very important to me. So while I was, going through that process, it was very depressing. And a couple of buddies of mine had done a short triathlon the summer before. And I thought, wow, that sounded really interesting. This is way back in 1987 when triathlon was still fairly new. And I thought, okay, I'm going to set a goal to get myself in shape and get my knee healthy again and do a short triathlon. And a year later, I got into a race and I did it, and it made me feel empowered and alive, just like all this other stuff that I've been talking about has. And it just kind of gave me a confidence in a way that I hadn't really, experienced confidence. And I ended up doing 4 more races that summer, and I did 10 the summer after that. And then, I ended up doing over 50 races, including 4 Ironman. It just became a way of life for me. But ultimately, I intuitively felt like I was supposed to step into that. And I even wrote my very first poem, and it's not very good, called The Triathlete, about someone finishing an Ironman race. And I wrote it before I ever did my short one. So in some ways, I think I felt guided to do that. And I, in some ways probably in turn visualized and manifested those experiences. So that's an example of trusting my intuition at a younger age. But there's times like, I think we all don't listen to it, and we stay in our head too much, and it causes us some grief, some temporary, some a little bit longer, whether it's, staying in a certain relationship too long or what have you. But there's definitely been times where I haven't followed it, but anymore, the more self-aware I become, and during my self-growth process, I'm really, really able to trust it most of the time, and it impacts my decision making.
Yes, I'm loving this conversation. So, self-awareness. How did you get there? Because I think we all have self-doubt at times, and
sure.
I don't think we are just at the place where we're just so confident. I think we arrive at that place if we ever get there. How did you get to be at the place where you are happy with you and happy with yourself and your decisions and all those things?
Yeah. Well, it's just a process, and it's a journey. For me, I think it's interesting looking back at my very first book being the Balance book. And, obviously I felt like that was kind of a gift. I don't know. For me, I think intuition is just our guidance from God, spirit, the universe, whatever you want to call it. And it's our duty, if we really want to live our most fulfilled and impactful life, is to trust it. And so I was given, this, the balance idea or what have you. And so that it's no accident looking back that I learned 10 years ago, before I really began this journey, what threw me out of balance, what kept me in balance, and learning how to become kind of hyper aware of that, which in turn helped me solidify and develop a really strong routine of becoming more self-aware. And so everything that I've created has just been an extension of my self-growth process. So when people ask me, how do you do it, or what should I do? I always just say, start working on yourself. Start shining some light on those fears. Start shining some light on those uncomfortable places. Because the more you do that, the lighter you'll begin to feel, the more self-aware you'll become, and the better choices you can make. You know what I mean? And so the more self-aware you can become, just the easier it gets. And to answer the second part of your question, the more self-aware I became, and the more that I really started understanding myself, I think I was able to also begin to love and accept myself more. And I think the more that one can do that, just everything starts to fall into place. You start releasing a lot of the weight that you've been carrying of trying to be someone that you're not, or filling the voids in ways that just waste time and energy. You know what I mean? There's so many different ways that we do that. And so, just start working on yourself. That's what I always tell people, and there is really no recipe other than just be honest and dive into those areas where you know you could improve, or where you know that you maybe have some things to look at and to get honest with. And it's not easy. I mean, there's some tough stuff that we all have to deal with from our experiences.
Oh, I totally agree. And it's funny you say that because a few years back, I did the same thing what you were saying. I started getting in touch with myself and going through my personal development and deciding who I really was and what I wanted my footprint here in this world to be. And of course, it is not easy. And I'm there with you. What was the thing that led you to that point?
As far as wanting to
take
a closer look and just really start to be the best version of myself.
Yes.
Well, I think in some ways it's always kind of been instilled in me. I remember doing some reading early on in high school and, just out of college and being kind of attracted to some self-help books and taking some classes. It's interesting, when I was in grade school in the probably in the mid-late 70s, my parents, I don't know why they did this. They had me listen to some affirmation cassette tapes. So I would just go into the living room, turn the lights off, and just, put on these affirmation cassette tapes. And so, I don't know, I've always just kind of been interested in trying to be the best version of myself. And it really didn't, kick in until the last, I don't know. I've always been curious. I think my mom reminded me not too long ago also, when I was little, the only word that ever came out of my mouth was why. Why this? Why that, Mom? Why, so I've always been curious. And I think that curiosity coupled with, I think, that internal knowing of what my life's mission is, has just put me on this path of trying to be the best version of myself so I can just be the best example for other people that I can be. Because I really don't ever try to tell anybody what to do. I just try to share, because I've been blessed in a lot of different ways, with some of the things I've done, but I've had to work very hard at overcoming my own, things to get where I'm at. And so I've done the work, and I just want to share to help other people start doing their work so that they can really start to feel more empowered and alive.
That was beautiful. I love
Thank
it.
You.
I love it.
Thank you.
Now,
Thank you.
I want to ask you this question because I'm always curious about this, especially since I've taken that journey as well with myself.
Yeah.
When you decide to say, okay, I want to be the best version of myself, and you start reflecting and you start saying, okay, this is what I want to do, who I want to be. You start changing some things in your life, maybe changing friends. Tell me about the things that you've gone through to get to the point where you are now. Was it difficult? Did you have to let some friends go? How did people act towards you once you finally decided, you know what, this is my passion and this is my path? Talk a little bit about that, because I think, because you don't do anything in a bubble. Right. And a lot of times you may have friends or family that are there and support you, and a lot of times they may not, and they may say, "Oh, you know what? I like the old Brian better. I don't like this new Brian."
Well, I was pretty lucky in that. I had pretty good friends, and yes, as we learn and grow, and there's some people that just maybe aren't on the same path of growth as we are, and they, for lack of a better word, kind of get just left behind. And it's not like we're wanting to leave them behind. It's just that as our vibration grows, and we want to, not surround ourselves with maybe some of the negativity that potentially brought, or just, some of the stuff they're stuck with. We have to move on. And that doesn't mean you just, kick them to the curb. We still are, try to be loving and friends and what have you. But as you grow, you're going to probably outpace some people, and that's just the way it is. But you'll also meet new people that will challenge you and match where you're at, and inspire you to keep even going further. So I was lucky. I've had pretty good friends, and I still have a lot of the same friends from high school and college. they were good people. And I haven't really had a lot of resistance as far as from family or friends, as far as like, are you nuts? What are you doing? You know what I mean? With some of the choices I made. I'm sure my mom probably wishes I'd probably make a little bit more money or whatever, but I'm not doing what I do for the money. It's just, it's my path. And, it'd be great to start having it become monetized in a different way, just so, because I know I could do a lot more cool things with it. But they're supportive. I know they're proud of me. It's interesting. I think the people that are closest to us sometimes look at us a little differently because they know us through everything that we've gone through and our worst moments, and when we were knuckleheads or butts, or you know what I mean. And so I think I think they're I know that they're proud of me. My brother is biggest my biggest inspiration, and he really loves what I'm doing. He's gone through a lot of troubles and experiences, and so I don't know, I just, to take a half a step back, I know some of the things that I've learned, right when I was racing in triathlons, I really learned how to take care of my body. And that's such an important thing as far as, self-awareness and self-growth goes too, because what we put into our body makes such a difference with our energy. And if, your energy is not up there, then you're not going to want to do anything else. And so when I was racing, I ate pretty healthy. And so I still take care of myself. I'm not as precise as I used to be, but I still need to get a little bit of movement in my life every day, whether it's going to the gym or going for a hike or just riding my bike. I certainly don't train like I used to, but having that knowledge as well from an early age, really, in addition to my balance, book, that's really helped me just stay more on task, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Now, as you are going through your journey, was there ever a time, because being a triathlete and doing all that you've done, was there ever a time where you wanted to quit, or you looked at yourself and go, what am I doing?
The triathlons, not so much, but some of this stuff, absolutely. I mean, I've, we're talking about stepping out of our comfort zones a little bit. I mean, that first part of with all the speaking and those things, that was not easy. But I just knew that I was supposed to do it. So I trusted, and I endured some of those embarrassing moments. And but when I moved to LA, it kind of got ramped up to a whole new level, because as I started going to auditions and really exposing myself in a different way, that was not easy either. I mean, I don't know. I think they say the average of booking an audition is 1 out of 75 times. So I've gone to hundreds of auditions and been told no. And if you're not, in a place of really kind of just self-acceptance and whatever, it can really beat you up. And, in acting classes, I've met a lot of people, and there's a lot of wonderful people trying to do the same thing that I'm doing that maybe aren't as self-aware, and they really just, they're struggling with maybe the pressure they're putting on themselves to make their dreams happen. And, and I've done that at different times too. I mean, let me give you an example. So since I already kind of felt like I had an idea where I was headed, since I told my mom when I was 3 that I was kind of put here to do what I'm doing, every time I released a project or a book, I kind of was wondering in the back of my mind, is this the thing that's going to spring me a little bit bigger? And which, in turn, maybe I had my expectations set too high on a particular thing, instead of really just enjoying the process of creation and sharing it and trusting it would reach whoever it was supposed to reach. I got really bummed out and depressed for a little while after each thing that I put out there. And I realized that I was just kind of going from one thing to another, instead of really savoring the moment and really just enjoying the journey. I know it's so cliche, everybody says it, but I was not having fun probably for the first 4 or 5 years, 6 years of doing what I'm doing, because I put too much pressure on myself. And I finally just kind of came to this place after I released my first kids book. It even hit #1 on Amazon in its category for a couple of days, and then I was depressed for a week. I just told myself, if this is, I don't want to do this anymore because I'm not happy if it's going to continue to be like this. So I really tried to change my attitude about um, my approach and just the results. And I've definitely been able to enjoy the process a lot more. And I think also kind of take some of that control out of my hands. Because I mean, the more we try to control, just the less fun anything is. And spirit doesn't want us to control; it wants us to trust. And so everything that I did to get myself here initially was just through trust. And so, you know what, I got to get back to the way that I was doing it early on, if that makes sense. And so now I just happily expect the unexpected, and just trying to have fun and really just genuinely connect when I'm with people, and just let it be what it's supposed to be.
I'm glad you said that because, I'm listening to you, and like you said, it sounds cliche, but you do have to follow the process.
Yeah.
And that's something that I kind of had to learn the hard way because I'm a control type A person.
Yeah.
and you find that when, like you say, you were expecting this and then you got disappointed when that didn't happen. And I think that that's something that we all do. And I know I've done it as well, because you go, oh, wow, this is going to be the greatest thing ever. And then it doesn't. And then you're going, oh, but I'm thinking if we just do what we're led to do and not have any expectations as far as, oh, well, this is going to be great. You open yourself up to allow whatever's going to come in.
Yes. And, also, Trina, looking back, I wasn't ready. I thought I was ready when these things happened, but had I got what I wanted at that time of my life, it wouldn't, I don't think it would be as good as it is going to be, after really solidifying my foundation and getting that place of really being comfortable and confident and loving with myself. It would have been, I probably would have crashed and burned.
Yes. And that is so important.
I had more seasoning to do.
Yes. I'm so glad that you said that, because oftentimes we look at things and we go, well, I wanted to do this 10 years ago, and how come that didn't happen? And then we get into the regret and the blame and going, well, if this had happened when I was 20, I wouldn't have had to go through XYZ. But what I found with my life is, even good, bad, indifferent, the things now that I've done my self-work and I look back, I'm going, you know what? That was not such a great thing I went through, or that was a bump in the road. But I'm thinking it all set me up. It was all a stepping stone to get to where I am now, because like you, I had the change mindset and change career type of thing, and stepping out of comfort zone. If I had stayed where I was comfortable, I would have continued doing that. Mm-hmm. But because I stepped out of my comfort zone to do something else, it led me to the point that said, okay, this is not what you should be doing. And this is where your passion really is, which has led me to where I am today, the podcast, the speaking, and all these other things. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's very important. And at the beginning I looked at it as, why did I do this? I was at this point and I was happy and I was content and I was comfortable, and something said, yeah, that was the problem.
Because it can be real easy I know a lot of folks just get into that mode of just kind of, it's comfortable and there's not a lot of stress, and that's fine, but I want more. I know that I'm capable of more, and I want to be able to share more. And so I had to go down that road less traveled, like yourself, and it's still evolving. I have some ideas of what's going to happen. I mean, I feel like I will still continue to do a little bit of everything, but I've gotten to a place of just being comfortably uncomfortable. I don't know if that's the right ways. Just that's not pushing anymore. I'm still moving forward. I'm still being proactive, but I'm not pushing. I'm allowing, and I'm, just letting the synchronicities occur, letting the chance occurrences happen, letting the person I need to meet to get to the next level pop into my life. Because everything that's happened to me, I've some people might call it luck, but it's not. I mean, I've been preparing myself to be ready. And the TEDx talk that I did kind of fell into my lap. My literary agent fell into my lap. I mean, a lot of things have happened to me because I was ready for them. I did the work behind the scenes, not only just with the work, but also the work on myself to be ready to take advantage of that. And that's why I tell everybody, just start working on yourself and just watch what happens.
I love that. I can talk
Mm-hmm.
to you all day because I love like-minded people, and
Yep.
I'm like you. I'm not finished, and
No.
I'm striving. I want better, and
Yeah.
it's funny. I have I don't know if you are familiar with Bishop T.D. Jakes, but one of the things he says that I've kind of taken under my wing is he says, don't put a period where God put a comma.
I like that. I've never heard that before. I am familiar with him, and that's great. I love it.
Yes, and I when he said it, it hit me like a ton of bricks because I said, "Oh my goodness, yes, there's so much more to me, and I'm not done. There's so many levels, and like you said, this thing led to that thing, led to that thing. But oftentimes, what we do, we say, "Oh well, I went to school to be an accountant, and I'm a banker, and this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life." When that's not necessarily your destiny.
Right. You may have done that or may do that for a little bit of time just to kind of develop certain skills or, what have you. I mean, when I was at the golf center, I was dealing with the public every day. I really had to learn. I mean, I'm good at it, but I was just, I was almost kind of like a bartender. People come down there for a smile and just, hello, and just a place to be welcome to go hit some balls or play or whatever, and, so I learned a lot of skills there, which, some are helping me now and some just, aren't necessarily as important maybe for what I'm currently doing, but it doesn't matter. I needed to go through all of that to become the person that I am.
Right. So let's talk. You mentioned a couple of things. You mentioned how the TEDx talk fell in your lap and your editor. Talk about that, especially the TEDx part, because I'm interested in that myself, because I know that's a process. They don't just accept anyone.
Right. So about 5 years ago, I was here in LA, and a gentleman called me up out of the blue who I had met briefly when I was in Reno. And he just said, "Hey, I'm living in LA now, and I'm going to be curating a TEDx event. And I remembered you, and I thought that you might be a good addition. Would you like to do it?" And I just like this, just gulped, and I said yes. And so I had 3 months to put a talk together and get it ready. And I just trusted that I would be ready, just like a lot of other things, whether stepping into the uncomfortableness of a triathlon, am I going to be able to do all of this? I just gulped and said yes. And that's one of the chapters in my new book, Boldly Say Yes. So, for me, that's what happened. And I'm very proud of how it turned out. It was called Be Yourself to Free Yourself, with a subtitle of Finding Your Personal Freedom. And I just shared my journey this first 6 years of the last 10 years, because I did it 4 years ago. And I wove my story through 5 points that I learned and utilized. And the first point was listen to your intuition and be open to whatever comes your way. The second was to step out of your comfort zone. The third was stay in life balance. The fourth was have fun and enjoy the ride. And the fifth was there are no rules, expect the unexpected. And so that's kind of how it turned out. I mean, like I said, it was just a blessing and a really good opportunity. Yes, it was scary, but it turned out all right. And yeah, that's what happened.
Wow. I'm loving this. Say yes boldly. I love that. And in your book, your talk, it's everything that you said there, your point, that's life.
Yeah.
It's life. Oh my goodness.
You can use it for anything. It's just, I think we can really do ourselves a big service if we can just let go of some of our expectations and just be a little fluid and flexible with what happens, because it'll allow, because some of those things are going to happen either way. But if we're really stiff and rigid and just like fighting it the whole way, it's going to suck. But if you're fluid and you're kind of flexible with it, and just say, okay, I can do this, and it'll make that experience a little bit easier and a little more palatable, potentially, whatever we're talking about. But um, that's what's worked for me. It just let go of some of that control.
Wow. And before we go into the questions, I want to know, as each door was opening for you, did you see it at that point? Did you realize what was happening, or was it until you took that step back and you started reflecting that you said, oh my God, I did TEDx talk, and then this thing happened, and then this thing happened?
Well, that's funny. There's a part of me that's pretty even keel. I don't get too high or too low. And so I think and because of that, and also because of that part of me that I mentioned a little bit earlier that I wanted to improve, that part of me that just kind of kept going from one experience and project to another, I never really learned how to celebrate my wins and give myself a pat on the back. And so I'm trying to do more of that now. So to answer your question, I was definitely proud of having done one, and it filled me with some, it made me feel empowered and alive and confident. But yet there was still part of me that was still fighting with, am I enough? Am I worthy, and all that kind of stuff, because I was, we all work on that, and I had to work on that just like everybody else. So, I think for me, it's more looking back, because I didn't really look too closely at the moment. It's looking back as going, damn, I did all that stuff. I mean, I look at all the things that I've done, and I don't really, I feel like I've lived many lifetimes, and I guess part of me just, I haven't really let some of it sink in still.
Wow. Yeah. I'm wow. Like I said, I can talk to you forever, because there's just such, like I said, just being like-minded. It's so nice to meet people like that. Mm-hmm. It's so great. Well, we're at the part of the show where I'm going to go into my 10 questions.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get those rolling. All right. Who or what motivates you?
I think I'm pretty lucky in that I'm pretty self-motivated, and I have a really strong internal drive, because I feel like I know what I'm supposed to do this go around. And so that kind of pushes me.
Okay. What demotivates you?
Boy, what demotivates me? I think probably sometimes I'll get some of my own fears will pop up, and maybe I'll temporarily kind of get a little discouraged. And I know that also when I'm not able to stick to my routine, a little bit of movement and eating healthy, that throws me out of whack. Like when I went on vacation last week to visit my family, I probably ate some things that I don't normally eat, and because of that, I didn't feel as good. And, I wasn't able to be as, to move as much. And I realize that's going to happen sometimes. I need to be flexible. However, it really does play an important part for me to stay motivated and kind of just a little more high energy.
Okay.
Yeah.
When was a time that something was said or done to hurt you, but it worked for your good?
Wow. Well, in high school, when I was a junior, a sophomore, I played on the JV baseball team, and there was just a couple sophomores, and the rest were guys that are a year older. And one of them thought I looked like a monkey. And so he and 4 of his buddies started calling me monkey all the time, whenever they saw me in school or at practice. And it crushed me. And there's a part of me that hasn't really probably felt attractive ever since, 30 years ago. And so I've had to really work on that and kind of work through that. And, I talk about it a lot now, and it probably stunted my ability to step into that self-love and acceptance.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
What is your fear?
Of not realizing what I was put here to do. That's what drives me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Is there a time when you wish you had done something that you didn't?
Mm. Wow. Probably. I don't know if anything's popping into my head. I mean, let's see. I can't think of anything honestly right now. I'm sorry. I also kind of feel like everything has happened for a reason for the most part. But yeah, there's probably some times where I would have rather taken a different route, but I just can't. Nothing's popping in.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, here's the converse of this.
Uh
Is there a time that you wish you had not done something?
oh. Mm. Sure. I mean, there's been some times when when I was a little younger and I didn't treat my siblings as well as I should have. And I feel bad about that. And, certain things that probably when I wasn't as self-aware just it's a way that I feel like for the most part, I've been a good person from all my life, but I mean, there's probably a few times where I just regretted maybe how I handled a relationship or something. Sure.
Okay. What is your definition of success?
It just keeps changing. Initially it's that whole, American dream of having a good job and making a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And, for me, you know, I I still do want to monetize what I'm doing in a much bigger way and get my work out there and continue to grow in that realm for sure. But I think ultimately anybody who really just is able to look themselves in the mirror and just tell them that they love themselves and really just be open to the self-growth process, that's someone who's successful. I mean, there's so many different ways that we can be successful. I even have a mason jar that I put little slips of paper in there every day that, like when I do something, whether it's just going to an audition, that's successful. Having, you know what I mean? Just there's so many things. Going to the gym for some people is a big deal, and that's success. So I'd love to get everybody to start retraining their idea of what is success.
Mm-hmm. How do you recharge?
Mm-hmm. Well, sleep is first and foremost for me. If I get a good night's sleep, then anything's possible the next day. But I'm an outgoing introvert. I'm really an introvert by nature, and so I need a lot of quiet time to refill and refuel. So meditation for me, I love to go hike in nature. That resets me. A little exercise, reading. Yeah.
Okay. What are you awesome at?
Mm. What am I awesome at? I think I'm very proud of the fact that I have stepped out of my comfort zone in a lot of different ways, and I have not been afraid to you know try to become the best version of myself that I can be.
Okay. And
Yeah.
our last question is, what legacy do you want to leave?
I just want people to feel good after they've had, after I've crossed paths with them. I just whether, and if that means them feeling inspired to kind of go after some of their goals and dreams, or if it just makes them feel good about themselves, or if just, I just want to be known as someone who was creative and who really wanted to help make the world a better place.
Okay. So give the listeners one motivational takeaway.
You are enough. Just being who you are and what you have to work with.
That says it all.
Yeah.
Okay, Brian. Well, tell the listeners where they can find you on your social media platforms and things like that.
I have my website's G Brian Benson. It's BRIAN Benson, G Brian Benson. I go by my middle name, and they can find me on all kinds of different social media places at G Brian Benson. And the new book is at habitsforsuccessbook.com.
Great. Well, you know what? I really enjoyed speaking with you. It was just great.
Thank you.
I was inspired as well. So I look forward to us working together in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you, Trina. I'd love to chat more. And it was a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Don't forget to go out to Apple Podcasts to rate and review Trina Talk. Also, please join me every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time as I go live on Facebook and share tips to help you achieve the next level in your life. If you're looking for a speaker for your live event or conference, go to my website and read my bio and contact me at bit.ly/booktrina. I hope you have a great week. Until then, remember, if you change your mindset, you'll change your life. Keep striving. Success is a journey, not a destination. You can listen to Trina Talk anytime and anywhere. It's available on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, Spotify, and all other places that you can listen to podcasts. If you like the podcast, please don't forget to go to iTunes to subscribe, rate, review, and share. If you have questions for me or need inspiration on how to go to the next level, tweet me directly at Trina L. Martin.